Good afternoon, everybody. Hope you're having a good weekend. Hopefully, you're getting ready for Christmas and Hanukkah and all that good sort of stuff. We're still not playing Curse of Strahd, so I'm doing another solo episode of Simon, the wielder of Valhallan's power. Um, let's see. I'm using ChatGPT 5.2 to be a DM for this solo game, and it's been doing a pretty good job here lately. The music we're listening to today is Dead Kings, hauntingly majestic dark fantasy music by Athena the Fourth. Give her a thumbs up on it. And let's read out the recap for the last episode.
Here's the recap exactly as written, ready for me to read it back to you verbatim. Episode 13 recap: The Name Without a Shape. In episode 13 of Blades for Hire, Simon stepped fully into the role he claimed in the previous chapter, not as an arbiter of fate, but as a listener to the quiet wrongness of the world. After returning to ordinary life at the Wayward Quill, Simon, Durst, and Mara followed rumours of unease beyond the town walls. Animals refused to cross certain boundaries, farmers sensed something passing through their land, and the air itself felt thinned, as though reality had been brushed by something that didn't belong. Their investigation revealed not a threat, but a passage. Something had moved between places, leaving behind only an echo. At a forgotten shrine on the north edge of town, Simon invoked Valharan and performed a careful ritual, not to command, but to invite. From that moment, a familiar answered. Ash, a fox-like spirit shaped by memory rather than fire, chose Simon as a companion, not bound, not summoned, chosen. With Ash's guidance, the group confirmed that the disturbance was fading and the land would heal. But the echo of misalignment led them onward to a deeper problem, one not of movement, but of memory. Through the spell component merchant Edrin Hale, they learned of the Bramwell family, whose home had begun rearranging itself nightly. Furniture shifted, objects returned to places they no longer belonged, names altered in a family Bible. The house was not haunted by malice, but by obligation. Within the Bramwell home, Simon uncovered the truth. An old house spirit, bound to an outdated idea of order, was attempting to correct the family back into a version that no longer existed. It wasn't attacking, it was failing to let go. Rather than banish the spirit, Simon chose conversation. During a quiet seance, the spirit revealed itself, not as a monster, but as a caretaker who missed the moment when its duty should have ended. Invoking Valharan not as a threat, but as a boundary, Simon spoke the truth plainly. The house had moved on, and so must it. The spirit listened. Accepting that time had passed, it agreed to remain silent or to leave entirely, so long as the Bramwells were allowed to live in peace. The house settled. The misalignment ended. What lingered was no longer wrong. Episode 13 closed not with violence, but with resolution. A reminder that not every problem must be fought, and that sometimes the most dangerous magic is simply telling the truth. This one reads beautifully out loud. It has a cadence like a fireside myth instead of a combat log, which fits Simon's arc perfectly.
Okay, it's time to start episode 14. What refuses to be spoken? What? What refuses to be spoken to? Spoken to. Begin.
The world eases itself back into motion. Morning at the Wayward Quill arrives without ceremony. No portents, no whispers in the walls, just the sound of shutters opening, a kettle beginning to argue with fire, and the low, ordinary murmur of people who slept through the night without dreaming of rearranged rooms or forgotten names. That in itself is a victory. Simon wakes with Ash nearby, not watching, not guarding, just present. The fox spirit lies where the morning light can reach it, its shape slightly out of focus, like a memory that has decided to stay. When Simon moves, Ash lifts its head, blinks once, and settles again. Content. Chosen things tend to be. Durst is already awake downstairs, nursing something that pretends to be coffee. Mara stands at the window, arms folded, watching the street with the expression of someone who knows calm never lasts. She does not turn when Simon joins them. She already knows he's there. Nothing is wrong, and that's the problem. The unease doesn't come from outside. It doesn't ripple through the land or cling to old stones. It comes instead from absence, a gap where a reaction should be, a silence where consequence usually clears its throat. The town feels incurious. When Simon steps outside, people nod, smile, go about their business. The shrine to the north remains quiet, the fields breathe easily again, and even the birds behave like birds instead of omens. Whatever passed through has truly gone, yet Valharan does not stir, not resistance, not refusal, simply no answer at all. Ash reacts before Simon does. The fox rises, ears angling not toward a sound but toward a direction. Not north, not toward the fields or the shrine, toward the town itself, toward something that has not asked for help, not because it cannot, but because it will not. Some things don't haunt houses. Some things don't rearrange rooms or whisper names. Some things endure by never being addressed at all. And whatever it is, it has noticed Simon. Take a breath. Tell me what Simon does next.
Simon asks Heron what's up with the town now.
Simon speaks the question aloud, not a spell, not a demand, just a truth placed gently on the air. Valharan does not answer immediately. When the response comes, it does not arrive as a voice in the room or a pressure behind the eyes. It arrives as alignment, as things clicking into a shape that had been deliberately avoided. The warmth Simon associates with Valharan is there, but muted like sunlight filtered through thick glass. Present, careful. This town is not wounded, Valharan says at last. It is practiced. Images surface, uninvited but not overwhelming. People learning which questions not to ask. Glances that slide past the same doorway every day. A name that everyone knows exists but no one ever finishes saying. What passes through land leaves scars, Valharan continues. What settles into people leaves habits. The silence presses in a little tighter now, not hostile but intentional. They have learned that some things respond when spoken to. So they stop speaking. Ash stiffens. Its tail flicks once, sharp and uneasy. Valharan's presence firms, not angry, but resolved. This is not a haunting, not a spirit bound to place or duty. It is a thing sustained by neglect. It remains because no one acknowledges it directly, not fear, not denial, avoidance. A final truth settles like a stone placed carefully on a table. It will not come to you, it will not disturb you, it will wait until you choose to address it anyway. The connection eases, but does not vanish. You are not being warned off, you are being trusted with a choice. The town continues its mourning around you, blissfully incurious. Simon now knows where the wrongness is. Tell me what he does with that knowledge.
Simon prepares to see if he can find the source of the unease that everyone is ignoring. But first, I want to go to a jeweler and get a symbol of Valharan made for me.
Simon makes a deliberate choice not to hunt the silence yet. First, to name himself properly in the world. The jeweller's shop sits 2 streets off the main way, easy to miss if you aren't looking for it. The sign is modest, just a crescent line etched into dark wood. Inside, the air smells of polish, old metal, and patience. The jeweller is older, not ancient, not mystical, just someone who has spent a lifetime learning how not to rush things. He looks up as Simon enters, eyes flicking briefly to Ash, then away again without comment. Professional courtesy extends to strange companions in this town. "What can I make for you?" he asks. Simon explains. Not the god, not the visions, just the need. A symbol of Valharan, something honest, something that knows where the line is. The jeweller listens carefully. He asks a few questions about shape, weight, how Simon intends to wear it. He does not ask why. People who make meaningful objects learn early which questions ruin the work. He sketches as Simon talks. The design that emerges is simple but deliberate, a clean, open form, no enclosing circle, no chain of authority, a mark that suggests presence without ownership, the kind of symbol that means more to the one wearing it than to anyone looking at it. When it's done, the jeweller quotes a fair price and a short wait. He can have it ready today if Simon stays nearby. As the conversation ends, Ash pads closer to the counter, nose hovering just above the sketch. Its ears tilt, approval of a sort. Before the jeweller commits to the work, he studies Simon once more. "This kind of symbol," he says carefully, "tends to draw attention, not always from people." He isn't warning, just stating a property of reality. "To move this forward, I need you to make a persuasion check for Simon. This isn't about haggling, it's about intent and clarity. Roll it and tell me the result."
Persuasion. Simon rolled a 16.
The jeweller studies Simon for a moment longer, then nods once. "That'll do," he says. Whatever he was weighing in that pause settles into place. Not suspicion, recognition, the kind you get when someone knows exactly why they want a thing, even if they don't explain it well. He turns the sketch around and makes small adjustment, opens the lines just a touch, leaves space where another artisan might have closed it. Then he sets to work. Time passes the way it's supposed to. Quiet hammer taps, the whisper of file against metal, heat, then cooling. Ash dozes in a patch of light near the door, occasionally opening one eye like it's keeping an appointment with the future. By midday, the jeweller sets the finished piece on a folded cloth. It's understated, clean, no gemstones, no ornamentation that screams faith. A symbol that looks almost abstract unless you know what you're seeing. It feels right in the hand, balanced, honest. When Simon lifts it, there's a subtle response. Not a surge, not a blessing, just alignment, like standing up straighter without realizing you were slouching. Valharan does not speak, but the silence this time is present, not absent. The jeweller watches Simon fasten it, then looks away politely. "If you ever need it repaired," he says, "bring it back. Some things change as they're worn." Outside, the town continues its carefully ordinary routine. But now, when Simon looks around, the unease sharpens. The symbol doesn't reveal the problem. It doesn't point or glow or whisper. It simply makes it harder to look away. Ash lifts its head, ears angling again toward the same direction as before. Deeper into town, somewhere people pass daily without ever stopping. The thing that refuses to be spoken to is still there. And now Simon is properly introduced to the world. When you're ready, tell me where he goes first.
Simon will will try his best to track down this thing everyone is ignoring.
Simon doesn't draw steel, doesn't mutter a spell, doesn't make a show of it. He does the harder thing. He watches. Tracking this isn't about footprints or broken twigs. This thing survives because it has trained the town not to notice it. So Simon lets his pace slow. He moves the way someone moves when they are not in a hurry to be anywhere. He follows patterns instead of paths. Ash mirrors him, padding along a few steps ahead, occasionally stopping where nothing seems to be happening. That's when Simon starts to see it. People alter their routes by inches, a glance that aborts halfway, a sentence that never quite finishes when a certain corner comes into view. There's a place in town that absorbs avoidance like rain into dry earth, a narrow stretch where the shops thin out, not abandoned, not dangerous, just skipped. The symbol of Valharan grows warm there, not hot, not active, just aware. This isn't a thing you can stalk. It's a thing you triangulate by human behavior. To narrow it down, I need you to make a roll. You can choose investigation if Simon is piecing together physical patterns and routines, or insight if he's reading people, habits, and the emotional shape of avoidance. Your call. Tell me which skill you're using, then roll it and give me the result.
Insight or investigation? I'll do insight even though I've got a higher investigation spell. Cure. Simon rolled an insight check of 10.
Simon watches long enough for the town to teach him something uncomfortable. With a 10, he doesn't pierce the pattern. He brushes it. What he gets isn't clarity, it's texture. People aren't afraid. That's the wrong emotion. Fear has edges. Fear makes you hurry, whisper, pray, lie badly. This is something smoother. It's resignation, polished by repetition. A woman steps around a certain stretch of street without realizing she's done it. A delivery boy slows near an alley, where hesitates, then invents a reason to cross the road. Two men talking lower their voices for no reason at all, then resume at the exact same volume once they've passed a blank brick wall with no sign, no door, no markings worth noting. Ash stops there, not growling, not bristling, refusing to move forward. The fox's outline wavers slightly, like heat shimmer, then stabilizes again. That alone is a tell. Ash is made of memory and choice. This place interferes with both. The symbol of Valharan does not warm this time. It grounds, like an anchor dropped into shallow water. Simon realizes the problem with this thing isn't that people are ignoring it, it's that they've agreed to. Not consciously, not all at once, over years, small concessions. It's easier not to. It's always been like that. Don't make trouble. The unease tightens, not around Simon's throat, but around his options. This thing isn't hiding, it's being protected by habit. From here, Simon has a few viable approaches, none of them clean. He can break the pattern, do something openly noticeable in the ignored space, and see what reacts. He can press a person, find someone whose avoidance is weakest, and push, gently or not. Or he can address the space itself, even without knowing what listens from the other side. Each choice risks attention, not just from the thing, from the town. Tell me what Simon does next.
Simon knocks on the wall to see if he gets an answer and hollers out, "Hello?"
The sound is wrong, not loud, not hollow, just wrong. Simon's knuckles rap against the brick, a clean, ordinary knock that should echo or thud or die politely like any other sound in a town that obeys physics. Instead, the noise lands and simply stops, as if swallowed mid-existence. No rebound, no vibration through the stone. The wall accepts the knock and gives nothing back. Then Simon calls out, "Hello?" The word leaves his mouth and does something unsettling. It doesn't echo. It doesn't fade. It doesn't even feel like it travels. It feels like it is received. Ash backs up a step, not in fear, in respect. For a long heartbeat, nothing happens. The street keeps pretending to be a street. Footsteps pass. Someone laughs a little too loudly farther down the way. No one turns. No one reacts. Then the wall answers, not with a voice, with pressure. The air in front of the brick tightens, like a hand placed flat against Simon's chest without touching him. The symbol of Valharan goes cool, not rejecting, marking a boundary. A line has been reached. Words form, not spoken, but imposed, like an idea you suddenly realize you didn't think yourself. You are early, the presence communicates, and rude, but not incorrect. The wall does not move, it does not crack or reveal a door. Nothing cinematic happens. That would be too noticeable. Instead, Simon becomes aware of something profoundly intimate. This thing knows how long the town has chosen not to look at it. It knows every near question that died in someone's throat. It knows how to wait. People who knock, it continues, usually want something fixed. People who call out usually want to be answered. There is the faintest sense of curiosity now. Old, cautious, irritated at being disturbed, but also starved. Ash glances up at Simon, eyes bright, unreal and steady. The presence settles into a final deliberate truth. If you speak to me, it warns, you cannot unlearn that I spoke back. The street remains silent. The town does not intervene. Simon stands at the edge of something that exists entirely because no one ever said hello before. You've got its attention. Tell me how Simon responds.
Simon listens to the voice. Tell me what your what should I call you?
The pressure shifts, not closer, not farther away, more focused. For the first time, the thing does not answer immediately. If it could sigh, it would. Not from lungs, from history. When the response comes, it is slower now, deliberate in a way that suggests this moment has been avoided for a very long time. That, it says, is the danger. The air feels heavier, like a room after furniture has been removed and the dust hasn't settled yet. Names invite edges, the presence continues. Edges invite responsibility. Responsibility invites endings. Something like amusement flickers through it, thin and dry. They stopped calling me anything when they realized I lasted longer without a name. Images brush Simon's mind, not visions, not memories exactly. Concepts. A time when someone did name it, long ago. A name spoken often at first, then less, then only in frustration, then only in whispers, then not at all. The name itself is gone. Worn smooth by disuse until nothing sharp remained. Ash sits, fully, tail curled around its feet. This is important. It knows it. The present shifts again, and now there is something unmistakable in it. Vulnerability. If you name me, it says carefully, you will make me smaller. If you refuse, you will make me louder. A pause, then quieter, closer to honesty than warning. If you wish to speak to me at all, it finishes, call me what I am. The space waits, not for fear, not for obedience, for precision. Simon understands something crucial now. This isn't a monster testing him. It's a long neglected function of the town, stripped of context and left to persist because no one wanted to finish the thought. Calling it the wrong thing could turn it hostile. Calling it the right thing could end it or redefine it. Simon is holding the sharpest magic there is. What does he call it?
Simon calls it Remembrance.
The word lands, not loudly, not triumphantly. It lands the way a final stone settles into a long, incomplete arch. For a fraction of a second, nothing happens at all. The wall is still brick. The street is still a street. The town continues its practiced indifference like a well-rehearsed lie. Then the pressure breaks, not outward, inward. The presence recoils, not in pain, but in recognition. The sensation that washes over Simon is sharp and intimate, like watching someone hear their own name spoken correctly after years of being mispronounced or avoided. Yes, it answers. The word is not defensive anymore. It is bare. The air shifts, and Simon becomes aware of depth where there should be none. The wall does not open, but it no longer feels solid in the way walls are supposed to. It feels like a boundary someone forgot to finish enforcing. That is what I was, Remembrance says. Before they decided remembering hurt too much, images surface now, clearer than before. A fire, long past, a choice made quickly and regretted slowly, a promise to never speak of it again, repeated so often it became tradition. The town did not erase the memory, they outsourced it. Remembrance did not haunt them, it held what they refused to carry. Ash lets out a soft sound, not a bark, something closer to relief. Valharan stirs at last, not as a voice, but as presence behind Simon's spine. A steadying hand that does not interfere. This is not a boundary violation. This is a naming that restores proportion. Remembrance speaks again, and now there is wariness in it. Deep, earned. You have made me finite, it says. That means I can change. The wall exhales. Brick dust trickles where no impact occurred. A hairline crack forms, not spreading, just existing. Proof. Down the street, someone stops walking. They frown, confused, as if trying to recall something they misplaced years ago. Another person slows. Someone else turns back toward the alley without knowing why. The town feels it. Not panic, not revelation. The beginning of accountability. Remembrance does not thank Simon. That would be too much like absolution. Instead, it asks the only honest question left. Now that I have a name again, it says, what do you expect me to do? The silence waits, and this time it is listening.
I want you to leave the town alone and remove your presence from here.
Remembrance does not answer right away, not because it resists, because it is measuring the weight of what Simon just asked. When it speaks again, the voice has changed. Less pressure, more shape. Being named has done something irreversible. That is not a small request, it says calmly. I am not merely present here, I am embedded. The word carries history like sediment. When they stopped speaking, they did not destroy the memory, they delegated it. I became the place where consequence waited instead of acting. If I leave, They will feel what they postponed. Ash looks up at Simon, steady, trusting. This is the difference between a familiar and a tool. It believes Simon understands what comes next. Remembrance continues, slower now. I can withdraw, it says. I can stop holding what they refuse to hold, but what I carried does not vanish with me. The pressure eases further. The wall's solidity falters, just enough that Simon can feel the town on the other side of the choice. Not as individuals, as a shared breath held too long. If I go, Remembrance says, people will remember why they learned to look away. Some will be angry, some will grieve, some will finally speak. A pause, then something like resolve. If that is what you want, it adds, I will comply. The symbol of Valharan grows gently warm. Not approval, confirmation. This is a truth spoken plainly, with consequences acknowledged. Remembrance gathers itself. The sensation is like a tide pulling back from shore, slow and deliberate. The wall lightens, the pressure recedes. That hairline crack does not widen, but it no longer matters. The thing holding the space together is preparing to let go. Before it withdraws fully, Remembrance asks one last thing. Not as a threat, as a courtesy. When they ask what changed, it says, will you tell them I was here? Because leaving quietly would be easy, and leaving honestly will not be. Tell me how Simon answers.
Yes, I will tell them that you were here. That way they will always have remembrance.
Remembrance is very still after Simon says it, not suspended, settled. The pressure that once felt like a hand against Simon's chest loosens into something closer to breath. For the first time since anyone can remember, the space does not feel like it is holding itself together by will alone. Then I will not be lost, Remembrance says. There is no triumph in it, no relief either, just acceptance. The kind that comes when a long task is finally allowed to end properly. I was never meant to be eternal, it continues. I was meant to be carried. The withdrawal begins. It is not dramatic, no light show, no cracking stone or screaming winds. That would defeat the point. Instead, the wall regains its ordinary weight. The street reclaims its shape. The sense of depth where none should exist flattens back into brick and mortar. What leaves is not presence. What leaves is avoidance. Down the street, a man stops walking and rubs his face, suddenly unsure why his eyes sting. A woman standing in a doorway presses her hand to her mouth, startled by a memory surfacing without warning. Somewhere, a name is spoken aloud for the first time in years, shaky but real. Ash exhales, a sound like a sigh made of sunlight and old leaves. Its form sharpens just a little, as if choice has weight now. Valharan's presence steadies behind Simon again, not louder than before, but clearer. This is not intervention. This is alignment achieved. Remembrance speaks one last time, its voice already thinning, dispersing into the shared mind of the town. Tell them I was here, it says, and they will not need me again. Then it's gone, not destroyed, not banished, finished. The street is quieter now, but not empty. The quiet is alive, full of people beginning to feel things they had postponed for a long time. Someone will ask questions, someone will be angry, someone will thank Simon without knowing why. Episode 14 does not end with applause or blood. It ends with a town taking its memories back. Simon stands there, wearing a symbol that does not command, accompanied by a companion that chose him, having spoken a truth that will echo long after the echo itself is no longer needed. When you're ready, we can close the scene or follow Simon as the first person approaches him and asks very carefully, "What did you just do?"
Simon responds to the question. I set loose a memory of the city. It was here for you to forget.
The words land harder than Simon intends, not because they are cruel, because they are true. The person who asks the question does not recoil. They do not argue. They just stare at Simon for a long second, like someone standing at the edge of a thought they have avoided finishing their whole life. A memory? They repeat quietly. Around them, others have slowed. No crowd yet, just the beginning of one. People pretending not to listen while absolutely listening. That old reflex still trying to do its job. Simon doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't soften it either. It stayed because no one wanted to carry it, he says. So it carried itself in that wall, in that space you never quite looked at. Someone swallows, someone else nods without realizing they've done it. It's not gone, Simon continues. Not really. You'll remember what you agreed not to, why you learned to look away. That part is yours again. A beat, a beat. I just made sure it couldn't hide for you anymore. There it is, the line crossed. The silence that follows is different from before. It isn't enforced. It isn't practiced. It's the quiet people fall into when they realize something important has changed and they are going to have to talk about it eventually. Ash steps forward and sits at Simon's side, visible and unapologetic. A few people notice. No one comments. The town's tolerance for strange things has just expanded by necessity. Somewhere, someone starts to cry. Not loudly, not theatrically, just enough to break the spell of pretending. The person who spoke first exhales slowly. So what happens now? Simon looks at the street, the wall, the people who will have conversations they put off for years. Now, he says, you remember, and you decide what to do with it. No thunder, no judgment, just responsibility handed back where it belongs. The town does not thank him. Not yet. Gratitude takes time when it comes bundled with reckoning, but someone reaches out and touches the brick wall, just once, like confirming it is really there, or maybe like saying goodbye. Ash flicks its tail, satisfied. Valharan remains silent, and that silence is approval enough. This is how episode 14 closes, not with a victory, with a burden returned. With a truth that can finally be spoken, because it no longer needs to hide. When you're ready, we can move forward into what the town does next, or into where Simon goes when the work is done and the consequences are just beginning to ripple.
Simon will go to the marketplace and look for any work to be done that involves sword work.
Simon does what he always does after setting something heavy back where it belongs. He goes somewhere noisy. The marketplace is alive in that deliberately chaotic way towns cultivate to prove they're still normal. Hawkers calling prices that mean nothing. A butcher arguing with a customer who absolutely knows he'll buy the meat anyway. The smell of bread, oil, sweat, and animals all negotiating space in the same air. And threaded through it all, something new. People are talking a little more than they were yesterday. Not about the thing, not yet. But conversations are less careful. Laughter comes quicker. Arguments flare faster too. Memory has friction. Simon moves through it with purpose, not prowling, not advertising, just visible. A man who looks like he knows which end of a blade is supposed to do the convincing. Ash pads along beside him, more fox than apparition in the daylight, though still unmistakably not mundane. A few people notice, nobody asks. The town's tolerance for the strange has been recalibrated this morning. Work finds him before he finds it. A scarred man near a grain cart pauses mid-sentence when Simon passes, looks him up and down, notes the way he walks, the weapons, the lack of theatrical menace. You handle steel? The man asks, blunt. Simon doesn't posture. I do. Cleanly? Yes. That seems to matter. The man gestures with his chin toward the far end of the market, where voices are raised in that specific way that suggests an argument has been circling violence but hasn't committed yet. Caravan guard quit last night, he says. Said he remembered something he didn't want to. A humorless snort. Now I've got wagons headed out and no one willing to keep blades off them. Another voice cuts in, a woman this time, sharper. And I've got rats big enough to fight back in my cellar. Not the cute kind. A third, quieter offer follows. There's a man who wants to be found. He's hiding badly. That usually means knives sooner or later. 3 jobs, all honest, all paid, all involving steel. This is the rhythm Simon knows. After truth comes labor. After meaning comes muscle. Before we proceed, tell me which job Simon takes first.
Simon will take the caravan guard job. Then that will be it for episode 14. Please close it out.
Simon nods once, no speech, no negotiation, just the quiet agreement of someone who knows what the work asks of him and accepts it anyway. The scarred man exhales like he's been holding that breath all morning. Coin changes hands, details follow, dawn, departure. 2 wagons, grain and salt. North Road, trouble that hasn't decided what shape it wants yet. Ash circles Simon's boots once, then settles at his heel. Not eager, not wary. Ready? As the marketplace noise swells and rearranges itself around new arguments and old routines, Simon steps out of the center of things. He has returned a memory to a town and taken a blade-for-hire job in the same morning. That balance feels right. Truth needs grounding. Meaning needs calluses. Behind him, the brick wall is just a wall now. In front of him, the road waits. Episode 14 ends not with echoes or omens, but with preparation. With straps tightened, with steel checked, with a man choosing motion after stillness. Some truths stay behind and do their quiet work. Some people keep walking. End of episode 14. What refuses to be spoken to.
All right, that's going to do it for today. I know it was a shorter run, but I've got other stuff to do. So maybe tomorrow we'll see what happens with the caravan. Until then, if you watch this far, please like, comment, subscribe. If anything, subscribe to know when we're playing again. Like I said, we've got Curse of Strahd coming up again at some point, and we're following Simon through his deeds. But that's going to do it for today. Hope everyone enjoyed it. Later. Bye.